From laying in her own feces for 3 years straight, to James King developing pus-filled bubbles on his disgusting leg, here are 7 of the most disgusting episodes ever aired on My 600 Pound Life. Starting with Lisa Fleming, who appeared in Season 6, Episode 7 as a 700-pound patient, having completely lost the ability to care for herself, barely being able to move a muscle. Lisa had to completely rely on her daughter for taking baths and cleaning herself up after she soiled her bed every single day. During the episode, while cleaning up the folds of Lisa's skin, her daughter made a shocking discovery that left the viewers utterly disgusted.
A month ago, I started feeling sick and my leg was really bothering me. I kept saying, my leg is hurting bad. And when Danielle pulled open the folds of my skin, she found little maggots on there. So now she has to check my leg every day.
The flesh on her body had decayed so badly, it had become a breeding ground for maggots, feeding on her necrotic tissue, the medical term for the skin that's dead and starting to rot from the inside out. This revelation grossed people out, with one commenting, "If having maggots in your skin isn't a wake-up call, I don't know what is." Lisa's bed was visibly stained, and her room looked like it had been neglected for a very long time, which might have contributed to Lisa's unhygienic habits, and thus the maggots. Despite multiple appointments with Dr. Now to address her horrible condition,
even if all your tests come back okay today, you're gonna have to lose this weight because you're in a very dangerous situation right now.
I know.
Your body cannot continue on like this for much longer at all. So I'm admitting you to the hospital to start you on a 1,200 calorie controlled diet immediately.
Still, she ignored his instruction. And just when you think that's all, it gets even more sickening. With Lisa barely being able to walk to the bathroom herself, her grandson, who appears to be a minor of high school age, is subjected to seeing her naked in bed while being bathed as shown on screen.
My grandson don't even get a chance to be a kid because he's so busy catering to me.
It's insane how asking your grandson to help you turn you over while you get wiped clean was just a norm for Lisa. But quite expectedly, people on the internet were justifiably critical, with one commenting, "No matter how hard or traumatic your life may be, subjecting a child to this is shameful. Then it's selfish, then it's weak, it's absolutely horrible." People even labeled this misconduct as child abuse. Her lack of care for hygiene and the insects that were crawling on her skin unnoticed made the episode especially disgusting to watch. And while Lisa was criticized for her negligence in child abuse, James King was hated for something even more disgusting. When James appeared on Season 5, Episode 11, his food addiction had gotten to such an extreme level that his sole purpose in life became about one thing.
I can never get full. And as soon as I'm done, all I can think about is when I'm gonna be able to eat again.
James weighed over 700 pounds and was completely bedridden by the time his episode aired. He had lost all ability to care for himself. With his mattress visibly soaked in his own body fluids, even the most basic acts of hygiene became impossible for him. He regularly soiled himself in bed, lying in his own feces and urine until someone cleaned it up, as shown.
So I got to depend completely on my girlfriend Lisa or my daughter Bailey to help me out.
And his girlfriend had no choice but to wash his rotting body every day, surrounded by the same soaked sheets and stagnant stench he had lived in for the past 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
Don't let it get hard.
I'm not. I got you. That's good. Okay. You comfy?
Yeah.
It was evident that he had let his body go to a point of no return. James's crusted feet and flaky nails showed long-term neglect and were disgusting to watch for the viewers, with one commenting, "If I were James, I'd take a cheese grater to my disgusting toes. Those flakes were nasty AF. You can imagine how much she smelled." And if that weren't enough, what's even more disgusting about this episode is how James's house's unsanitary conditions had led him to urinate in plastic bottles, only to stack them in the same room his family lived in throughout the day. This level of insanitation had led him to develop severe infections and wounds throughout his body. To add to that, James had developed open sores on his legs due to constant pressure and immobility. He was diagnosed with cellulitis, a bacterial skin infection that causes inflammation and pain. The wounds had begun to harden, leaving parts of his legs raw, swollen, and visibly rotting. In some areas, his skin had turned dark and leathery, clear signs of necrosis or dying tissue. His skin had developed pus-filled bubbles, and his legs had deformed completely.
Because I have cellulitis draining out of both legs so bad that I have fluid coming out all over.
Having fluids ooze out of his extremely bloated legs, James's episode was easily the most visually disgusting episode on the show. And if James K was infamous for his disgusting habits and repulsive living conditions, Stephen Assanti took it to an entirely different level. From urinating on the floor in front of medical staff, to stealing his brother's painkillers right after his bypass surgery because of his growing addiction. Stephen quickly became one of the most controversial and disgusting figures to ever appear on My 600 Pound Life. His episode aired in Season 5, Episode 13, which featured both him and his brother Justin, but it didn't take long for viewers to grow uncomfortable. Not just because of his extreme food addiction, but because of the deeply unhygienic habits he developed over time. Stephen's father described his disgusting habits as shown.
So this is the room he would eat in, use his urinals to go to the bathroom. The only time he went to the regular bathrooms when he had to go number 2.
This had viewers totally grossed out. What's even more outrageous is that Stephen did this out of spite, considering he was perfectly able to stand up on his own and go to the bathroom. His unsanitary living conditions and the state his body was in added to the situation's disgust, but it was yet to get worse. Stephen's demanding and manipulative behavior had already gotten him kicked out of a few hospitals, but what he did in Houston left the viewers shocked to the core.
He used to eat in this room constantly, and he was sneaking pizza all the time and hiding the evidence. One day I happened to open up that closet, and I see 10 piles of empty pizza boxes in here.
He spilled his own urine on the hospital floor just to get the attention of the medical staff. The doctors had to clean up after him, given to his exhaustive demands, and even then, Stephen wouldn't let go of his old eating habits. What's even more sickening is that Stephen had completely stopped taking baths.
Why haven't you been taking a shower?
I try my best. It's just hard to keep up with it sometimes.
Which had led him to develop a putrid smell in his body that was too unbearable not to notice. Upon Dr. Now asking to see what was causing the smell, Stephen showed this.
Show me the rash you're talking about.
Yeah, but
Let's see.
okay.
His rash had not only inflamed over time, but it also made the viewers extremely disgusted, with one commenting, "I can only imagine how bad his breath must be too." His unhygienic behavior, refusal to cooperate, and severe lymphedema made this episode one of the most disturbing in the show's history, which ultimately led people to call Stephen beyond hell and flat out disgusting. And honestly, I don't blame them for calling him that. Stephen had literally crossed all lines. But Stephen Assanti wasn't the only one who left viewers shocked. Jeanne Covey's episode might not have been as loud, but it was just as hard to watch for very different reasons. From bathing her to wiping her when she soiled herself, Jeanne needed assistance for the most basic human functions, with her mother being her full-time caretaker. With her being too big to get into the bathroom, Jeanne had a portable toilet right beside her bed.
Yeah, I gotta go potty. Can you help me, please?
Whenever she had to go to the bathroom, her mother had to clean up all the filth and put it away. What made it even more disturbing was how normalized it all seemed to her. There was no visible shame, no urgency, no real desire to change the situation. It was so uncomfortable to watch. 40 years old and your mother still has to clean you like you're an infant? This is just tragic. While viewers were left horrified, Jeanne showed little sign of discomfort. To add more to it, Covey home was nothing short of a disaster itself, with all the clutter, filth, 9 dogs, and stained walls. It was Jeanne's living conditions that made the episode especially hard to watch. How can people live in such filth? But as filthy as the house was, nothing can prepare you for what comes next. Jeanne had developed a severe infection on her inner thigh, which had caused her to lose blood excessively through her wounds. Upon Dr. Now's investigation, he found out the infection was caused by fecal matter lodged deep in her skin folds. Actual poop stuck to her skin for days. The infection had developed due to her not washing herself properly. And when I say it was bad, I mean viewer discretion advised level of bad. The infection had become so severe that Dr. Now with his team had to immediately scrape the filth and dirt off her flesh to prevent any further complications. The grime brewed an infection that literally smelled like spoiled meat, with cockroaches crawling across the floor, trash piled in every corner, and a smell so foul even the camera crew struggled to stay inside. People were critical of the family's living conditions, saying that they've never seen walls so dirty and dusty. Jeanne's episode wasn't just difficult to watch, it was physically repulsive. Her home had become a breeding ground for dirt and insects, and her declining health only made it worse. Then there was Jeanne Milliken, who made an appearance in season 4, episode 11 of the show, weighing over 919 pounds, making him probably the heaviest person alive at that time. But what truly made his episode hard to watch wasn't just his size, it was how far gone his body and living conditions had become. Jeanne's extreme denial and excessive eating habits had led him to the state of immobility, where it was nearly impossible for him to even get up and go to the bathroom himself. The effects of his lifestyle had ravaged his body. His skin had stretched and torn to the point that large open sores had formed beneath his folds, oozing with pus and barely treatable as shown.
And it's really important that he stays clean because he gets open sores real easily.
And this wasn't just in one area. Because of his constant pressure against the mattress, Jeanne developed multiple rashes and infections between his folds. Moist, swollen areas that had to be cleaned out frequently, not just for hygiene, but to keep the skin from breaking down even further. But what truly made viewers sick was the state of his legs, as shown here.
Oh, that hurts.
They had grown so swollen and discolored that they no longer looked like functional limbs. Covered in ulcers and rashes, Jeanne couldn't lift or move them on his own, and they seemed to hang lifelessly as if detached from the rest of his body. And then there was the room, adding to the disgust of this episode even more. His bedroom was packed with clutter, piles of items left unattended, with barely any room to move around. Even if he could walk, his sheets were stained and unwashed, soaked with sweat, fluids, and signs of long-term neglect. There was no clear distinction between where he slept, where he ate, or where he defecated. It was all in the same space. But Jeanne wasn't alone in this. Lisa Ebberson, who appeared in season 10, episode 14, showed a similarly devastating picture. Weighing over 600 pounds and barely being able to move, Lisa had been completely bedridden for 3 to 4 years. Not leaving her bed in so long, her body and her environment had started to break down around her. Her bedroom was a mess of clutter and trash. Food wrappers, dirty clothes, and piles of miscellaneous junk filled the space. What's even more nauseating is to know that Lisa had not been cleaning the mattress after urinating and defecating because of her mobility and lack of care.
I feel bad because sometimes my bedding gets wet, and then we have to change the bedding. You know, it's kind of stressful. I have to use the bathroom with stress on my body.
Her house and mattress was so visibly disgusting that people couldn't help but comment, imagine the bacteria, viruses, and fungus growing in that mattress. But what truly made Lisa Ebberson's episode difficult to sit through was the state of her body, especially her legs.
Oh, you're gonna get as good as you can.
She suffered from extreme lymphedema that had worsened with each passing day. Her legs had swollen to a massive size, covered in hardened, leathery skin that had begun to split and rot. The surface was marked with oozing sores and thick rashes, the kind that clearly hadn't been treated for months. She couldn't walk, let alone shift her body properly in bed, and the constant pressure only made her condition worse. Her foot infection had also got to such a severe level that her boyfriend literally had to scrape the dead skin off her legs whenever he washed her body. Lisa's episode was both disgusting and infuriating to watch because of neglecting her body and completely ignoring her hygiene. Just when you think Lisa's episode was the worst, Dolly's story tells you otherwise. Dolly first appeared in season 10, episode 12, weighing just over 600 pounds. Her physical decline was closely tied to the conditions she was living in. Her house was filled with clutter, trash, and filth scattered across the floors, creating an environment that made personal care nearly impossible. Due to her size and immobility, Dolly could no longer clean herself. Her mother and best friend had to wash and bathe her every single day. There's something uniquely disturbing about needing someone else to clean the folds of your skin while you struggle just to stay upright, like Dolly did here.
Oh, God. My stomach. This is hard.
It's okay, I'm almost done.
Oh, God, okay.
To make things worse, Dolly had developed a massive lymphedema lump hanging between her thighs. It had grown so large, it looked like a second torso. Sweaty, swollen, and constantly rubbing raw against her own skin. The shocking part is that it weighed more than a newborn baby. With her restricted motion and poor hygiene, her skin was prone to developing severe infections and rashes. To prevent extreme rashes and reduce smell, Dolly had to be rubbed with cornstarch every day. But this wasn't a new routine. Dolly's hygiene had been so poor for so long, she'd been fired from multiple jobs in the past due to her smell alone.
Dolly is not real good at bathing herself. She got in trouble for this in Job Corps, for not keeping her body clean and odor-free.
Now, if you like my videos, please subscribe or watch my similar videos here.